Hello, my name is Sarya, and this is a series of videos where I recap what happens in The Earth, playing on IQIYI, starring Apple and Mim, where I compare the details from the book and the show. Spoiler alert to anyone who hasn't watched the show, read the book, and wants to, because we are on episode 3. And because the show follows the book very closely, I thought I would give you kind of like a basic recap of the episode and then point out where the book is different, which is not that many parts, but let me try anyway. Episode 3 of the show starts in the middle of chapter 3. Like I mentioned in the last part, it's called The Cherished Diamond of the Watain Wanits. Episode picks off where the last one left off, which is Din and Keo have just finished doing business in Chiang Rai and they're trying to make it back to the Sanrak farm, but find that there is a motorcycle tailing them. The motorcycle has 2 men on it and they start shooting at Din's car. The assistant is freaking out. Din's like, don't worry, I already calculated for this. This is all part of the plan. And eventually the motorcycles shoot their tires out, and so Din has to stop the car, and she asks them, who sent you? And they're like, oh, you pissed off a lot of people, man. We're here to show you a lesson. But before they can do anything, their guns are shot out of their hands by none other than the hot, sexy cousin Lam. Lam is called Vayo because Vayo means air. Played by hot, sexy Freen Sarasha. Basically, Din's plan was to lure these motorcyclists out and have them arrested by Lam so that they could be interrogated by Din and Lam to get some information about Wasapol's business. And also just to serve as evidence that Wasapol hired them to take a hit on Din. Then Lam and Din go back to the farm and Lam is introduced to Rose and Rose is like, oh my gosh, you're one of the cousins from the photos. So eventually Din and Lam go home after this whole ordeal and Rose is waiting up for Din, but Rose doesn't see Lam yet because in the show, Rose is like, I've been waiting for you all night for you to get home safely. And the show makes them have a moment. This doesn't happen in the book. But anyways, Lam does eventually walk in and introduce herself to Rose. And she's like, oh my God, you're just as pretty as Din says, because she's always talking about how pretty you are. And Din gets very embarrassed and Rose looks very happy about this. The next day, we find out the motorcyclists have been bailed out already. But the motorcyclists actually wanted to turn the narrative on Din and say that, oh, Din came out of nowhere and swerved and tried to hit their motorcycle, even though there's clearly evidence that they were trying to shoot Din's car. But anyways, they're trying to sue Din now, and Lam is really pissed off because they're like, obviously there's evidence, but the police station clearly is being bribed by Wasapol and his people because they're trying to close this case as fast as possible. In the book, Din feels okay about this because she's like, at least my assistant can testify, and that will definitely give us some evidence against them. But in the show only, Din's like, actually, I have a journalist friend who can help us. And so she calls her up, and it's played by the same actress who was in Poisonous Love named Mew. And she's like, I also have collected the stories of all these family members who are testifying that their daughters are missing and their daughters are probably being human trafficked by Wasapol. And so that's something that comes up only in the show so far. Anyways, they have all this discussion and Lam is like, listen, I have an idea. Rose's life is in danger because she's embroiled in all of this shenanigans with Wasapol's human trafficking rings. So here's an idea to get the heat off of her back. She's like, right now the Mahatanakorns are trying to get Rose's land because they need it for their human trafficking smuggling routes, right? Why don't you just take it all before they can? And Din is like, what do you mean? And then Lam is like, well, why don't you just marry Rose, in a fake marriage, obviously, and then you make it seem like you get access to all the lands, and then all the attention will be on you, and then you no longer have to worry about Rose's life being in danger because you're trying to keep this promise with her dad. And Lam's like, if you also marry Rose, you'll piss off Wasu, and that could definitely bring the heat off of Rose and the Amornjinda family. And Din's like, but why would Rose even want to marry me? And Lam's like, it's just a strategic fake marriage, don't worry about it. Din obviously is pretty pleased at the prospect of maybe being able to marry Rose for any reason, so she's like, all right, maybe we can try this out. So just like in the book and the show, the next day, Din and Rose go to the hospital to take a visit to Uncle Teep. The book expands a little bit more about Rose's anxiety about taking over the farm now that her dad is unconscious. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is so much. I have no idea how to run this farm all by myself. My dad never prepared this for me. Honestly, if I could, it sounds crazy, but I would trade all of that just to see him awake. And Din's like, of course you feel that way. For you, love is more important and you're not a greedy person, but I'm sure that all this effort that you're making to show up at the hospital every single day, he can feel it even if he's not conscious. And I'm sure he wants nothing more than to wake up and give you a big hug. Rose is very comforted by Din's kind words, and in the show, she gets called away by the doctor to talk about her dad's condition. And this part only happens in the show, which is when Rose gets called away, Din is standing over Uncle Teep's body and she's asking him, would you be really okay with me fixing this dangerous situation by marrying your daughter? Then Rose comes back and is told by the doctor that her dad is probably still going to be in a coma for a little bit of time, and Din tries to comfort Rose some more. Then after that, Din takes Rose back to the Chomjam farm to get some roses, because for Rose, these roses, wow, say that 5 times fast. Because for Rose, these roses represent her parents' love. And they also bring her a lot of comfort in these trying times where she's so worried about her dad. In the book, it happens a lot more casually, I guess, where Din is like shaving off the thorns of some of these roses. And at some point, she just like turns to Rose to casually hand her one of these roses, but then at the same time is like, hey, will you marry me? And obviously in the show, it's played off more in a very, very romantic lens. And this is where chapter 3 in the book ends and start of chapter 4, which is called Tipapa is an Impatient Bride-to-Be. This next part only happens in the show, where we get Lam hanging out on the couch texting one of her bootangs named Little Rabbit. Now, I haven't read the air books, and no spoilers please, but I bet this is just like one of her bootangs, because she probably has hoes in different area codes. I mean, look how casually she's flirting on this couch. Anyways, Rose storms in and goes straight to her room, even though Lam says hi to her, and Lam's like, what was that? And then Din comes in shortly after, and Lam's like, hey, what's wrong with Rose? And Din's like, I don't think Rose wants to marry me. Sad face. And Lam's like, wait, why would you say that? No, don't tell me. Did you just like ask her out of the blue? And Din's like, well, yeah. And Lam's like, oh my fucking God, how are you like the oldest cousin, but also like the least experienced? And Lam's like, oh my God, of course she's freaked out. You didn't even explain to her the plan. You're supposed to tell her the context for these things. And Din is just like a dumb gay bitch in every iteration of this story. And she only proposed because she was too excited at the prospect of marrying Rose. And Din's like, oh shit, you're right. I probably did need to explain to her the plan. Like, should I just like go find her right now and like tell her? And Lam's like, nah, you need to give her some time because you just dropped this crazy bomb on her. And then Lam is like, you know, it's going to be hard for you to even convince her to go along with the plan because you have to put yourself in danger to do it, and she probably is too nice of a person to ever want you to do that. And these next scenes only happen in the show where Din is like privately contemplating just how much of a dumb gay bitch that she's been. And she's just like, oh my God, why am I so stupid? Why am I so bad at communicating? I think Apple's face is hilarious in these scenes. And that's why the morning after you get Din trying to avoid Rose like the plague, and she leaves really early in the morning. And Lam and Aunt Jan are like, hey, like, what's up? And since Din is a terrible liar, Lam calls her out. And because Din is a terrible liar, Lam immediately calls her out, and like, you know, Lam and Aunt Jan are just like gossiping and teasing her. Both in the book and the show, Rose immediately after this has a debrief with Ma Dang. And Ma Dang is equally in the book and the show. And Ma Dang in both the show and the book are both over the moon excited about this potential union. Ma Dang's like, girl, go for it. Din's so cute. She loves you so much. It's gonna be great. Oh my God. Rose is like, but, like, you know, like, we're not like in love. So I can't marry her, obviously. Also, it like happened out of the blue. And Ma Dang's like, I don't care. Oh my God, I'm so excited for you. And in the book, it does emphasize more on the fact that Rose is like, we are not in love yet. This is like a much more prominent narrative because, of course, in the book, we can hear more of Rose's thoughts. Anyway, she comes to the conclusion that she cannot marry Din, and she goes off to find Din to tell her her answer. She goes to ask Aunt Jan where Din is, and she's like, oh, Din's in town doing some work. It's just like a 10-minute walk. And so she walks over, and Mudang trails after her with this umbrella, like very specifically exactly in this way in the book as well. So Rose gets to Din's office in the city center, and she runs into Kla, who is the main foreman of Sanrak Farm, who also happens to be Gail's dad, Din's assistant. And I guess this is the first that Rose has heard of this assistant that Din has, and she starts getting really, really jealous. Madang's like, oh yeah, Gail's been her assistant for years, they're very close, they're basically friends, but don't worry, like, I don't think it's anything more than that. And Rose, in her head, she's like, well, if they're so close, why don't they get married? Why did she ask to marry me instead when we had just reunited after so long? Then Rose goes back to the farm, and she runs into Lam, and Lam's like, oh, are you looking for Din? And Rose is like, yes. And Lam is like, okay, first though, I need to tell you that my cousin is very bad at communicating, and if she asked you to marry her, it's because it was my idea, and it's actually just supposed to be a fake marriage because we're trying to protect you. Rose is clearly very disappointed by the fact that this is actually just all a strategic marriage, but she definitely is relieved by the fact that it's not coming out of nowhere. Then Rose is like, I still want to talk to Din though, and so she waits all night for her to come back to continue this conversation. And Din comes back very late because she's trying to avoid home. She comes back with Gale, and Gale's like, oh, Din, you know, I noticed that you've been distracted all day. And Din's like, oh, yeah, just like some personal stuff. And then she's like, oh, by the way, that day when the motorcycle attacked our car, like, you got some injuries. Are you okay? And Gale's like, oh, yeah, like, it's getting better. And she's like, you know, Din's like touching her face, like saying about her injuries. And Rose obviously rushes out and sees Din and Gale being close and gets super fucking jealous. Gale's like, oh, Rose has been waiting for you. I probably should leave you guys alone. And Rose is like, no, it's cool. You can stay for this. I know you guys are like close and stuff. And then she very, very like defiantly in like this jealous girlfriend way is like, well, Din, about your marriage proposal and stuff, like the answer is like, yeah, I will marry you. And the look on Din's face is just priceless. I mean, look at that. She's like so happy. And then she runs to Lam's bedroom. She's like, oh my God, like Rose has agreed to marry me. This is crazy. Lam is like, oh my God, fuck, I was sleeping. Like, what the fuck? Like, wait. Like, oh, that's great and all, but like, why are you so excited? Why are you acting like this is like our real marriage or something? And Din's like, oh my God, like, I don't want to even think about that, but I'm just like so over the moon. Oh my God, like Rose has agreed to marry me. And Mom's like, okay, cool, but you need to get the fuck out of my room because I need to sleep. And Rose is in her room privately freaking out, and she's like holding a rose, and she's like thinking about the proposal that they made as kids when they were playing princess. But then she remembers the actual proposal that Din made her, and she starts freaking out because she's like, I actually kind of barely know Din. Like, I just reunited like 1 week ago, but also like she makes my heart flutter. Ooh. And that's the end of chapter 4 in the book, and chapter 5 begins, and chapter 5 is called Officially Declaring a War. The beginning of chapter 5 starts with the arrival of Nam, because Din has invited her and asked to help her plan the wedding that she and Rose will eventually have. They're trying to get married as soon as possible, of course. In the book version, Gale's actually really thrilled that they're getting married, and there isn't this like lingering sense of jealousy or unrequitedness coming from her like they portray in the show. But in the book, Gale actually offers to be responsible for wedding preparations. So eventually, in the book and in the show, they start doing wedding preparations. Rose is getting super overwhelmed by how seriously Din and all her cousins are taking it. And Din's like, listen, we gotta make this marriage look as real as possible. Otherwise, you know, it's gonna be for nothing because no one will believe that the marriage is legitimate. However, I'm still gonna sign a bunch of documents and contracts and promises in order to give you security and know that, like, no matter what, I'm not gonna have control over your farms. We can end this fake marriage whenever you want, and we'll put that all in writing. And if for any reason you want to end it, like if you meet someone special that you truly love, then of course we can end this marriage as soon as possible. And then Rose is like, well, of course that also applies, you know, when that happens for you and you meet somebody that you love, we can end this marriage. And Din's like, yeah, because we all know that Din already loves Rose. And then we find out that no one else in the farm can know that it's a fake marriage, and the only people who know the truth are Rose, Din, and the cousins. And Rose is like, oh, so does that mean you're not even telling your assistant? And Din's like, no. In the book, we hear Rose's internal thoughts be like, you know what? I don't like Gale. I don't like her at all. I don't know what, I can't put my finger on it. I just don't like her. And in the show, Din adds that she wants to add this extra layer of secrecy because she feels like there's a mole in her farm feeding information to Wasu and Wasapul. In the book, we get more of Rose's internal monologue being like, you know, Din is so caring and so considerate, and while this marriage is fake, she is like giving it 110% planning this wedding. She's so meticulous. She's always been so good at taking care of me. She's always been like this since we were kids. And she's like, oh my God, like, what if I fall for Din? I can't fall for Din. Like, no. I can't fall for Din. That would make this fake marriage situation super fucking complicated. Like, it's just a business arrangement. I can't get too invested. And then she's like, I must not fall for Din. I absolutely must not. Next scene, Din and Rose go to like a wedding dress shop. And Din's like, listen, I know this is a fake marriage, but I'm going all out because you are the most important thing to me. And I just want this to be a lovely, lovely memory for the both of us. They pick matching rings. The whole process is very, very sweet. Rose picks a dress. Din is breathless. She momentarily shuts down when Rose does come walk out wearing a dress. Both versions have this exact line, which is, even though it's not real, you're the most beautiful bride in my eyes. Apple plays this So cute. She is so smitten. Then the show puts in this falling moment that I was like, was this necessary? But you know, they're trying to build tension, which is fine, I guess. Din even asks when they fall over in this position if they can stay in that position longer. And I don't know about you, but I would probably find that like really uncomfortable. Sometimes this is why I call the GL genre a fantasy, because I would personally feel like this is a really awkward situation to be in. Especially like, I'd be thinking like, oh my god, like the dress is getting dirty. It's so expensive. Like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to be lying on the floor like this. But then I forgot that these two people are like heiresses to farm fortunes, so they can afford it. I mean, the angles are actually really cute, so what do I know? This is how you know that the show is doing fan service, because it looks really cute for us to watch, but I imagine being in that situation is not that comfortable. Anyways, both the book and the show have this next scene where Wasu tries to shoot Din, and Wasupul's like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you gonna shoot her in broad daylight or something? And Wasu's like, yeah, I wanna teach her a lesson. And Wasupul's like, oh my gosh, you fucking idiot. Like, if you shoot her in broad daylight, it's obviously that you did it, and like, there's nothing I can do to save you. And here's just another example of just how fucking dumb Wasu is. Wasupul's like, don't worry, I'm gonna talk to her tomorrow and it'll get sorted. In the next scene in the show, we have Din and Rose back on the farm trying to discuss more wedding stuff, and then suddenly Nam and Phi appear. Phi clearly is like the feisty photographer cousin, who then like goes straight up to Rose and is like, listen, if you're gonna marry anybody, marry me, because like, what is going on? Rose is like, oh my god, like, where is this hostility coming from? And Nam is also there being like, chill girl. Phi's like, listen, I just love my big cousin Din, and if anyone's gonna risk her life, like, she doesn't have to do this, so like, maybe you should just marry me, Rose. And Rose is like, obviously I'm not gonna do that. And Din's like, this is my choice, I already made the decision, Phi, just respect it, okay? Nam is like, listen, Phi, like, the best you can do in this situation is be the photographer for the wedding. And Phi's like, oh. Rose is like, oh my god, like, does Phi hate me? Din's like, don't worry, she's just like that to strangers. Once you get to know her, she's like super, super nice. So then all the cousins are at a picnic table, and it's very, very sweet to see them all together. Nam is like, do you want the wedding here? Rose is like, yeah, having it at the Chamjong farm seems like a good idea. We can supply all the flowers. Din is like, I'm gonna invite some officials so that if Wasu and Wasupul show up, they won't dare do anything. Lam is there being super cutesy wootsy with her other cousins, and you clearly get that she has the youngest cousin vibe. Or maybe Phi has the youngest cousin vibe, I don't know. Lam is like, oh my god, Phi, can you please just like stop being such a grouchy face? Phi's like, fine, whatever. And then suddenly Modang shows up and is like, Wasupul is here to talk to you, and all the cousins look very serious. And that's the end of the episode. There's a few cute passages in the book that I want to mention, because while this is all happening, Rose in the book is making all these observations. And of course, this is a reference to the Four Elements, you know, series. She's like, Din was like her name, steady and grounded, like Kasama. Nam is calm and intelligent, like Apo. Lam was playful and easygoing, like the wind, Bayo. And Phi, she was fire, and then she's like, Achima means fire. So in the book, of course, they mention the actual names of the cousins a lot more often than in the show. Just for your reference, Din, Kasama, Nam, Apo, Lam, Bayo, Phi, Ashima. In the book, when Rose meets Phi for the first time, she's like, wow, compared to Phi, who seems downright grumpy all the time, Din, who before I would have described as like a straight and emotionless person, seems like the friendliest person around now in comparison. And then in the book as well, Rose tells us that Lam is someone who has a very natural charisma and charm about her, and that Modang is actually gushing about her all the time, so much so that Rose is sick of hearing it. And in the book, actually, it isn't Modang that tells them that Wasupul is there to see her, but it's actually Gale. And that's the end of the episode, you guys. I'm still trying to figure out what is a better format to do this in, whether I should just do the entire episode recap and then point out differences in the book, or if I just point out points in the book that are different. Please let me know what you guys prefer, because this is a lot more for you than it is for me, even though I love talking about this. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see the next part, make sure you follow my videos and like this if you want. It would really help me. And I'm going to leave a Buy Me a Coffee link and my Venmo here if you guys feel so inclined to leave a little tip for me, because it's always appreciated. Anyways, I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you guys very soon. And also, can I just like officially say that the drought is over, you guys. We are now swimming in stuff, especially on Fridays. And I, for one, am so excited to see the next episode of Heart Code and Play Park. Happy watching!